Hey, it's Terry with yardcoach.com. Welcome to Tuesdays with Terry. Today is the beginning of a 20-day series of turning obstacles into opportunity in 2020, which seems like quite a challenge for most of us. I've been talking to parents and teachers who really are struggling with what is ahead for us and for our kids. And so I decided to use these next 20 days to help you take a look and shift perspective so you can see these obstacles as opportunities. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but bear with me. Today I want to start by talking about NASA, actually. NASA has spent the last 10 years trying to create the scent of space, which is what they think space may smell like because they want their astronauts to smell it before they leave the Earth's atmosphere, I guess, to acclimate them. I'm not sure. But now a private company has gotten that recipe and they're promoting a perfume called Eau de Space so we can all smell what space smells like. But the point is, Chris Hadfield, who's a former astronaut, he says, he theorizes it's not so much that you're smelling space as the vacuum of space sucks trace chemicals from the walls of the container it's in, which in this case is a spacecraft. And that's probably what you're smelling. And it got me to thinking that's exactly what we do, isn't it? There's this whole realm of possibility outside of us, and we have our little bitty brain, our spacecraft, and everything that's out there is affected by what we already contain within us. In other words, our life stories, our expectations, our fears, our perspectives, how we look at things, our impressions, anything that life has to offer us in infinity, in limitless possibility, is all either usually limited by what we already think. And so I see a lot of that going on. And that can change if you change your perspective. And I want to give you an example of that from my own life. In 1993, Sudan had a major horrific famine. In 1993, we moved our family cross country from Louisiana to Oregon. So 8 of us, 6 kids, all going to school from college to kindergarten. And so that summer was pretty hectic, and when it got down to crunch time, the house is done, it's packed, the kids are packed, we're getting ready to leave the next day, we have last minute stuff we have to do, tell people goodbye, make sure all the things are done. It was very stressful. Not only the practicalities of moving away to a place I had never been before, never even seen, but the practicalities of registering everybody in school, getting the new house situated, myself having to actually find a job once we got there. So it was very stressful and very hectic. On top of that, of course, as a mother, I'm thinking, how are my kids going to react? What's going to happen to them? I'm worried already about their future. They're coming from a place they've known all their lives, going to a place they've never been. So all of that compounded into huge stress. And I remember on the last day, I was riding into my mom's driveway to pick up some kids who had been staying with her while we finished all our last minute stuff. And there was a radio program on about Sudan and about this famine, and the reporter said that women were standing in line with their children in a very long line, hoping that food was at the other end by the time they got there, and that their kids were actually falling over and dying from starvation. And hearing that totally switched my perspective. Nothing changed in Sudan. Nothing really changed in my world, but my perspective changed. In other words, the smell of everything that was coming into my container changed because my container changed. I shifted. So when my kids came running out the house to say, "Mom, you're here," instead of hustling them into the car like I would have done, "Come on, let's go, get your stuff, you got your backpack, we're gonna leave," I stopped and I hugged them and I held on to them like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're not, dropping dead," really is what I was thinking. It's like, I have you here with me. And so what I began to see is people who are grateful don't need much. All the stuff that clouds our thinking and everything that in everything that happens to us, it's not necessary typically. And if we're grateful it really doesn't happen much at all. So I rarely, if ever, anymore find myself in that state because that was years ago and I didn't know what I know now, which is why I do what I do. So people who are grateful don't need much because you don't have a lot of room for much. If you are focused on everything that's right, there's so much right when you focus on it, there is not room for want. There's not much room for you thinking about, well, I got to have this or I need that. So today, day one here, this is T minus 20, we'll say, since we're using NASA as a little analogy. T minus 20 here on our 20 days and turning obstacles into opportunities. I would like us to think of 5 things that we're grateful for. This is the stipulation. 5 things that if they were not in your life would be drastically different and not for the better. Okay? So just 5 things. And when I say things, it could be people, processes, possessions, whatever. Just 5. And what I'm going to ask you to do is for at least an hour today, because I know many of you are stressed, for at least an hour today, if you can do it all day long, that'd be great. Until tomorrow, give yourself permission, at least though for an hour, to stop the worrying. I'll worry about that later. Worrying about where the kids are going to go to school, how my job's going to work out, how I'm going to look at money, what's going to happen to us. All those things that are compiling to make us a little crazy these days, they're not necessary. We'll go through that in the next 20 days. We'll hit on all those subjects. But for today, we're going to start with gratitude. Because if we don't open ourselves up to possibilities and open ourselves up to see what we already have, the possibility that we may not need anything, then we're not going to get very far. Okay? So 5 things today. Thanks for being here. I'm going to see you for the next 20 days, and I'm excited about that. I love you all. Until next time, take good care. Bye for now.